The basic criteria of the CPITN and CPI remain the same. That is, the score 0 is for normal, score 1 is gingivitis, score 2 can be either calculus or plaque retaining factors like overhanging margins. Score 3 is shallow pockets, that is 4 to 5 mm, and score 4 is deep pockets, that is more than 6 mm. In addition to this, you have something called as the loss of attachment score. That is how much has the periodontal ligament lost its attachment on the tooth, and it is measured in mm. Now this question is asking you if the CEJ is visible, and on probing, the CEJ is between the upper limit of the black band and the 8.5 mm ring, then the loss of attachment score is. Now let's look at the explanation. So now here your CEJ is between upper limit of the black band, that is 5.5 mm, and 8.5 mm ring. So your loss of attachment is somewhere between 5.5 and 8.5. So let's say round it off to 6 to 8. Now whenever you have a loss of attachment of 6 to 8, your CPI score is 2. Your CPI score goes as 0 for 0 to 3. The CPI score is 1 when you have loss of attachment between 4 to 5. It is 2 when you have 6 to 8. It is 3 when you have 9 to 11 mm. And it is 4 when you have about 12 mm, or when your entire probe up to the 11.5 mm band is beyond the field. Any doubts till now? Fine. Let's move on to the next question. Now from the periodontal indices, we are coming to the index for caries. Now in DMFT, that is the decayed, missing, filled tooth index given by Henry Klein, Carol E. Farmer and Knutson J.W., sealants are included in. Now you must understand is that the DMFT index or this decayed, missing, filled tooth index for caries came in 1938, and sealants have come into proper use after 1955. So there is no way that these three scientists could have astrologically predicted the advent of sealants. But their index criteria was so strong that they have always mentioned that a filled tooth will be recorded as F only and only if it is filled for caries. If the tooth is fractured and restored, it is not recorded as F. Similarly, for the D component, the decayed component, only those teeth that are affected by caries will be recorded as D. So sealants, that is your pit and scissor sealants, are neither in your D, nor in your F, or nor in your M. Now they cannot come in your F because as the criteria are very strict, that a tooth that is filled for caries only will be classified as F. So sealants are preventive type of restoration or preventive type of filling. So they are not placed in any carious teeth. Hence, they do not come under F and they are not recorded. However, you must understand that the WHO has come out with a dentition status index, and in that index, sealants that are a preventive type of filling come under the criteria P. P stands for preventive restoration. Any doubts so far? Fine. So that is about the DMFT index that was given in 1938. You also have the DMFS index, that is decayed, missing, filled surface index, given by the same authors in 1938. Instead of teeth, the surfaces are recorded. The posterior teeth have 5 surfaces: buccal, lingual, mesial, distal and occlusal, and the anterior teeth have 4 surfaces, that is buccal, lingual, mesial and buccal, lingual, mesial and distal. The inside chiral surface is not considered as a separate surface. You have to understand that because the DMFT records so many surfaces, it is a more sensitive index and it is most commonly used in studies where you are assessing the effectiveness of any caries preventing modality. That said, let's move on to the next question. This question is about different criteria used for diagnosis of. Let's just read the question. The Anglo-Saxon system and the European system are different criteria used for diagnosis of. Now these criteria are used for diagnosis of Pitt and Fisher caries. Let's have a briefing about them. Now the Anglo-Saxon system or the liberal system was given by a scientist called Horowitz in 1972. I want you to remember the scientist because he is also associated with Fluorosis indices. Now why is this system called as the liberal system is that for diagnosis of Pitt and Fisher caries, it makes use of a mouth mirror and an explorer. And it just starts exploring the Pitt and Fisher of a teeth. Now whenever the explorer catches, it starts probing for the softness of the base or discoloration around that softness of base. Now why is it called liberal is because this action of the sharp explorer, like I explained before, can push the caries deeper into the tooth. So it is a more liberal system using liberal criteria for diagnosing Pitt and Fisher caries. That is a large cavitation, softness of base. The explorer is catching when you are probing the Pitt and Fisher of the teeth. As opposed to this system, the earlier system which was used in Europe was more conservative. It was given by a scientist called Baker-Dirks in 1961. Now this was more conservative because it did not try to push the explorer or anything like so aggressive. All the teeth were dried properly. One sharp-pointed explorer was gradually passed to the Pitt and Fisher, and mainly it was a visual kind of examination where they saw if there was any black line or black margin around any restoration or black margin around any Pitt and Fisher sealant. And only on gentle poking of the explorer, if it was getting caught in some Pitt and Fisher, was the Pitt and Fisher declared caries. So as you can see, the first one is a bit more aggressive and liberal in the use of the explorer, whereas the second one is more conservative when it comes to explorer use. But now, like I stated earlier, use of explorer in detecting Pitt and Fisher caries is generally frowned upon. We use the CPITN scope with the ballpoint end. Any doubts so far? Fine. Now we are coming to indices for fluorosis. Now I want you to just read the question and just have a look at the words that I have underlined, because being fluorosis index can be a little tricky to mug up. So I'll just give you some tricks to know that which of these criteria and which of the words will always appear together. So now the question is asking you, examination reveals all enamel surfaces of the teeth are affected. Surfaces subjected to attrition show wear with presence of brown stains. Now score according to modified criteria of Dean's fluorosis index is. The correct answer here is moderate. Okay, now as you can see, they've given you some numbers alongside. What happens is Dean has given some amount of weight to the criteria that he has classified fluorosis into. Like you have, as you can see, very mild has been given a weight of 1, mild is a weight of 2, moderate is a weight of 3, and severe is a weight of 4. Before very mild, you have something called as questionable. That has been given a weight of 0.5. Now you have to understand that Dean's fluorosis index first came into picture in 1934 and it had 7 categories. It was modified later again by Dean only in 1942 to give 6 categories. category that was omitted was moderately severe, and it was merged into moderate. Now this was done because it was creating unnecessary confusion between the latter three categories. Now, like I was telling you, the criteria and the trick words that you should always look out for. Now, in a Dean's Fluorosis Index, whenever you are going to categorize it as normal, the words that will always appear in your questions are translucent, smooth, and glossy enamel. So, whenever you have these three words, you are going to classify that as a normal should or normal enamel. Whenever you see words like occasional spot or white flecks, the criteria or the category that you will put it in is going to be questionable. Whenever you want very mild, the words that you have to look out for are 25%, paper white areas, subtle tips. Please excuse me for the interruption. So wherever the words and the criteria. So like I was saying, whenever you have very mild as your criteria, the words that you will look out for are 25%, paper white areas or subtle tips are involved. Whenever you have a mild category, the most commonly used word alongside will be 50% of the tooth surfaces are affected. For moderate, like we have in this question, you will have all the surfaces are affected and there is a presence of ground stain. And whenever you have severe, the most common word that you are going to look out for is the corroded appearance of teeth or hypoplasia and presence of pitting. Any doubts till now? Is this Dean's Fluorosis Index clear? Because it's one of the very most important indices of fluorosis and most commonly used. Please don't forget these statistical weights as well as the words that are used to define all the criteria. Okay. Now the next question, again about the index for fluorosis. You have 4 commonly used indices for fluorosis and all of them have different purposes. But the one that is most sensitive in recording fluorosis is the one given by Shillstrup and Fredesco. Let's just have a brief look at all the indices. Okay, like Dean's Index, we have just discussed. It came out in 1934 and it has those 6 criteria and the words that you have to look for. Now the other 3 are uncommonly used on routine basis and all of them have different applications. Now the tooth surface index was given by Horowitz et al. In 1984. Now this is the same Horowitz we just discussed for the Anglo-Saxon liberal criteria for fit and suture caries detection. Now why this index is not as sensitive as the Shillstrup-Fredesco index is because in this index, when you are examining the teeth for fluorosis, the teeth are not dry. They are examined in their natural state. But that is not a drawback of this index. Why? Because the main purpose why this index does not dry teeth is it wants to see that whether the fluorosis that the patient has any aesthetic hamperment on the patient. That is, whenever you are talking or whenever you are smiling, your teeth are never in an extremely dry state. They are kept moist by the saliva. So, when you have a little bit of water content, the fluorosis white stain might not be that prominent. So, it is just going to assess your aesthetic hamperment because of fluorosis. The next one that we have, that is the Shillstrup-Fredesco index given in 1978, is considered the most sensitive mainly because it dries all the teeth and checks the severity of the white stain. It is also more sensitive than the Dean, basically because when Dean has formed his index, he was only examining people in the area where the chloride content of water was up to 5 ppm. Whereas when these two scientists have given their index, they have checked teeth that are affected by fluorosis up to 7 or 8 ppm of fluoride in water. And the last index you can see is not very commonly or routinely used. It's the fluorosis risk index given 1990. Now what the fluorosis risk index does is it is age-specific exposure. It is just going to check your incisors and first molars to see at what age was that patient exposed to fluoride in water. As you know, that permanent teeth are more affected by fluoride and show more fluorosis than primary teeth, and the site at which the tooth is affected can show at which age the fluoride exposure began. Suppose your lower central incisors are the first to erupt after followed by your mandibular first permanent molars. So if these teeth are involved in fluorosis, it shows that the fluoride exposure began early in life or in fetal life. Any doubts till now? Fine. So these are the indices for fluorosis. Now we have come to the Dean's Community Fluorosis Index. Like I was telling you all in this previous question, you have some weight or some amount of statistical weight, more appropriately called, that Dean has given to all his criteria. Now based on that statistical weight, he has come out with something called as a Community Fluorosis Index. Now a Community Fluorosis Index, if the score is 0.3, then it indicates that the public health significance is negative. Let's have a look at this Community Fluorosis Index. Now this Community Fluorosis Index is basically what Dean has given to see if the fluorosis in the community needs some help. Suppose you have only very mild or mild form of fluorosis that is more prevalent in your community, you don't need any change of water supply or you don't need any medical intervention or help. However, if you go to a community and you see moderate or severe type of fluorosis, that there is corroded appearance or the teeth are markedly brown or there is large amount of pitting. If you come across natives of Rajasthan, you will see what I am talking about. They have severely corroded appearance of teeth, they are brown in color, they are spitting on teeth. So when you have a community with such high amount of fluorosis, that is moderate or severe, you need to do something so that this fluorosis comes down. Either you change the water supply, or you dilute the water that they are taking with water containing no fluoride, or you apply some amount of treatment so that the fluoride in their water is reduced, something called as defluoridation. So this is exactly why Dean has given a classification like Community Fluorosis Index. Now what this index is doing is that the number of individuals you have examined, all of them will have been assessed one criteria, either very mild, questionable. That is multiplied by the statistical weight, like we were discussing, either 0.5, 1 or 2, and divided by the number of individuals that you have examined. This will result in some sort of score. Now he has classified the score on 6 different levels. So when you have the score of the community between 0.0 to 0.4, it is negative or it has negative public health significance. As you go higher, whenever you have medium marked or very marked public health significance on this index, it means that you have to give that community some intervention to bring down the fluoride content in their water. Either, like I said before, you change the water supply, you dilute it, or you teach them defluoridation on a domestic or community basis. But when you have a CFI score of medium mark or very mark, you need to intervene to reduce the amount of fluoride that their progeny will be exposed to. Any doubts so far? Is everybody awake? Fine. The next question. Now I think we have come out of indices. It's a very simple question. The tooth least susceptible for caries is. The answer is lower custard. This was found in Minnesota by a scientist called Bucket in 1931. I don't think there needs to be much discussion. If you want this question to be discussed, just put it in the doubts column. The next question is on hibernation of dentine. Now, hibernation of dentine is seen is, as we all know, it is arrested caries. What happens in an arrested caries is that, why does the caries get arrested? See, like we all know, dental caries is a progressive disease. When your cavity becomes large and now it becomes acceptable for your oral hygiene measures, or it becomes accessible to saliva that can neutralize or buffer the demineralization, or in proximal cases when your adjacent tooth gets extracted and now that site is available for your oral hygiene, the caries stops progressing. So there is arrest in the progression of caries. Now this is called as arrested caries. Now what happens to the exposed dentine of arrested caries is that the demineralization is arrested. Now it undergoes remineralization by the calcium or chloride ions that may be available in your saliva, through your toothpaste, and it becomes brown and hard and burnished. And this appearance is called as hibernation of dentine. It is most commonly seen in large open cavities and in proximal areas where your adjacent tooth has been extracted. Any doubts so far? Fine. The next question. Idiopathic tropica mucosae oris refers to. It is a previously used term for oral submucous fibrosis. It was called as Idiopathic tropica mucosae oris because what happened is it is idiopathic because initially this condition was found in the tropical women and men. Tropical in the sense probably Indian or East African origin. So what happened is initially no one was able to diagnose why their mucosae had rigidity. But eventually as science progressed, they attributed this rigidity to the use of tobacco. So eventually this term was replaced by oral submucous fibrosis by Hoshi in 1963. Now what happens in oral submucous fibrosis is we all know that the submucous layer or submucous layer, the collagen fibers increase and this reduces the elasticity of your oral mucous membrane and gradually there can be reduction in your mouth opening. So this was initially found in the tropics because of the high prevalence of tobacco use and areca nut chewing amongst the local population. And idiopathic because at that time they did not know the cause of this condition. So as the cause became clear, the rename to oral submucous fibrosis was done. Any doubts? There is a doubt that is posted. What requires treatment? Fine, there is a doubt regarding the previous question, hibernation of dentine. Ideally, a hibernian dentine need not be removed by cavity preparation, but if you have a large cavity on an occlusal surface, it is always ideal to restore that tooth, to restore its functionality and to restore contact with the opposing tooth. You can't leave a cavity open like that. Like we have discussed that hibernation is generally seen in large open cavities or in proximal areas. So whenever you have an open cavity, it is always ideal to restore it. But while restoring, you need not remove that dentine because it is remineralized, non-infectious, non-progressive and arrested caries. But you are going to restore that tooth so that the tooth can be functional and contact with the opposite tooth will be maintained. If you leave that cavity open, there is a chance that again food accumulation might happen, and if the patient's oral hygiene compliance decreases, say over the long run, unfortunately he meets with an accident, his hand has a fracture, he can't brush, so it can again progress, or the opposing tooth might supra-erupt. So to prevent all this, it is always best to restore the tooth as close to functionally possible by you. Is the doubt clear? Can we move on to the next question? Fine. Now this 27th question is a bit controversial. It is asking you that a pregnant lady is using fluoridated drinking water. So which of the following is true of exposure of fluoride? Now as you see, I have marked two answers. The red one is what is generally available in literature now. Even in Sobel Peter, that's a book you must be commonly referring, it has concluded that the placenta has no role. But why I have highlighted the second option is because we all know that deciduous teeth have less amount of fluorosis than your permanent dentition. And why we say deciduous teeth have less amount of fluorosis? One is because short amount of calcification time. So obviously the amount of time that fluoride will take to incorporate is very less. Then the fluoride that is ingested goes to the bone. Because the bone is rapidly developing, instead of the teeth, the fluoride is diverted more to the bone. Then you have one common school of thought is that placenta acts as a barrier. Your enamel thickness is less. Now what is interesting is that whenever we are trying to justify deciduous dentition have low incidence of fluorosis, we say placenta acts as a barrier. But lately the school of thought is been going to placenta has no role. So that is the safe answer to mark. However, you must understand initially what was thought was that the placenta acts as a barrier in two ways. Active and passive. Now what do you mean by passive barrier of placenta is that whenever a pregnant lady is drinking water with optimally fluoridated 1 ppm of fluoride available, the placenta passively allows only 1 ppm of fluoridated water to pass through the fetus. Whenever the fluoride in water is more, let's say 2 ppm, the placenta still allows only 1 ppm to pass through. What do you mean by active barrier is that whenever the fluoride level